Welcome to another edition of the channel's Mailbag. So what is Mailbag? Well, Mailbag is the part of the channel that you guys actually control. It's based on comments, questions, general feedback that you guys leave either on the YouTube channel, the website, or through one of my social media feeds. Mailbag contains what I think the answer is, what I think my view of the comment is, or sometimes, I just throw it out to the wider audience and say, what do you guys think? That's what Mailbag is. So let's get in to the first mailbag of this session. Remember, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Go over to Instagram and follow me there. Go over to Facebook, follow me there. That's where the normal notices are. And consider becoming a Patreon. This comment question comes from Captain Pumu in response to setting up the MIDI on the Roland JX-8P Part 2 video I did in June 2021. And Captain Pumu writes, "Hi John. Thank you very much. This is very helpful. I managed to send program change messages successfully from Ableton via MIDI Clip. I would like to send messages to set key mode, poly, unison, solo. Monitoring the data that the JX-P3 is sending, it says SYSEX message, but I cannot find the related value or the related command. How do I can send the relevant data back to the JX-8P? So in Ableton, I feel like I can send a bunch of stuff like MIDI CC or also just LSB of MIDI CC, but I am a bit new to that kind of stuff. I can read in the owner's manual to set poly or mono. It is a command which is 1011 NN. It is supposed to be 11 or 176, and then corresponding settings around 123 to 127. I feel like I'm missing the initial target channel. I need to pick up the door in order to send those commands. Sorry, man, but I liked and subscribed. Also, mine is cutting out on volume. It's crackling and has to do with the level back switch HML. So that's the switch on the back that allows you to set the output level as low, medium, and high. I never quite understood that, but there was a reason for it. And some of there seems to be an unstable wire connection, or one of the amplifiers is unstable. Have a hint on that issue also. So the first thing I would say about synths of this age is that MIDI implementation does not do all the basics, but some of the more advanced, it does all the basics, but it doesn't do some of the advanced features that we'd expect to see supported on a more modern synthesizer. Now, while MIDI CC is considered standard back then when the synth was introduced, it was not. The predominant MIDI mechanism for change items on the synths was to use system exclusive, and many have commented on that in various formats in forums. Now, a couple of things I would check before launching into deep diagnostic mode. One, are you on the latest firmware issue for the synthesizer? I believe that is 3.1. Has the synthesizer been modified? Companies like the Coman produced modifications for the Roland JX-8P that enhanced it, and sometimes changed the way it reacted to MIDI inputs. The Coman modification definitely makes changes to the way MIDI implementation, I know that for a fact. Okay, those are two areas aside, and to be clear, it's 3 years since I had this synth in the workshop, so I'm going to make comments from memory and welcome anybody else in the community to jump in on this one. I'll be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure you can send those parameters to the Roland JX-8P, given what I've said about system exclusive versus MIDI CC. Now, I seem to recall that you need to enable the exclusive function in the MIDI setup. That's one of the things you have to do, because it comes by default as off. And I have a feeling you also need to turn off the memory protection command for commands to interact with the synthesizer. So even though you're sending commands to the synthesizer, if the memory protect is not off, it basically ignores them. Or it does some weird stuff as well. So sometimes you can send it and it will change it, and then you move off the patch and move back to the patch, and the patch is as it was. So you've got that. I think this is reinforced by the fact that MIDI implementation chart also only lists hex values, which is indicative of SYSEX only realm as opposed to CC realm. Now, I can't be really much more help because I did all that from memory. And the final tip, if you're troubleshooting the connection between your computer and the JX-8P, remove all the other devices that you have from MIDI out from the computer going to the MIDI in of the synthesizer and vice versa. That eliminates anything else in your setup interfering what you're trying to diagnose, and then you're purely looking at the MIDI messages that are transferring between the computer and the synthesizer. If you try to do it in a more studio environment where you've got multiple MIDI devices running at the same time, the problem with that is that you're not sure that your MIDI messages you're seeing are generated by that synthesizer as opposed to any other instrument that happens to be in the chain. So hopefully that's that kind of gives you a piece of diagnostic and a way of diagnosing the problem. Captain Pumu writes back and says, hi, thanks for the default through answer. I definitely will check the firmware and figure out if it has mods on it. Yes, the protect has to be off, and yes, I have connected a few things, but this is the only MIDI connection between the Roland and my audio interface, which is then connected via USB and other USB MIDI devices. But also sometimes you only use a limited setup, only the JX-8P. I feel like the poly mono setting has to be understood first. Maybe it's a different meaning to what you thought it is coming from the definition of voices. Thank you for your answer, and thanks again for the video. Keep it up. Well, this is what this channel is all about. I've said this many times. It's all about the feedback and the interaction. You watch a video and you believe that you got some value out of it. And if you did get some value out of it, please consider becoming a Patreon, or just shooting me a I can't think what the YouTube version of it is, but YouTube, you can send me a monetary support amount, a one-off amount, if you think it was worthwhile. I know YouTube is a free channel, and I know you've got advertising and stuff like that, but sometimes when people come and do that, and people do that, they send me just a few dollars and say, thank you very much, dude, really helped. I managed to get what I wanted, and thank you very much. That was so helpful. Here's a couple of dollars to help run the channel. That I find is very comforting, that I've actually made a difference.